About this time last year, I was looking forward to 2022. I had some hopes, I had some fears, and I had a few questions about how the watch world might pan out in last year. Now, at the beginning of 2023, I find I don't really have that many hopes. I don't really have that many fears, but I've got a load of questions. Let's get into those questions after the intro. Hi, I'm Pete McConville, and if you're into thinking about overthinking, overanalyzing, getting way too geeky about watches, you've come to the right place because I like doing that too. Hit the like, subscribe button, and we can do it together moving forward. I don't really have a lot to say today. Really, this is me throwing out a bunch of questions, things I'm going to be keeping an eye on through 2023 to see how we pan out. The first is going to be around Omega. Where are they and what are they doing? Last year they released a lot of watches, but they don't seem to be anywhere. We can't see them. All of those new colourful Aquaterras, the new Speed Timer 57s, they just don't seem to be anywhere. Big questions. Is this a good problem? Is this that Omega is so successful, they're so flat out, they just can't make stuff fast enough? Or is this a bad problem, that there's something going wrong with their production and their inventory and their distribution and they're kind of failing? Can't wait to find out what is going on with Omega next year or this year. My next question is around Cartier. They had an amazing 2021. They jumped Omega on the Morgan Stanley Watch World Cup Premiership table. They had a fantastic Watches and Wonders. Can they maintain that momentum? Can they keep that spot? Was that a flash in the pan? It really is connected a little bit to what's going on with Omega. Is Omega really able to just sustain, is it making a comeback? I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with Omega and by extension Cartier in this year. The next big question I have is, what is the real world impact of the Moon Swatch on Swatch and the PRX on Tissot? That end of the market has been in terminal decline, has been collapsing. It's been a part of the market that a lot of people have been thinking might just die, but those two watches have been really successful. Those two watches have generated a lot of buzz. Can't wait to find out whether that A can be sustained and B, does it have a real impact on the bottom line of the Swatch group and that segment of watches. Sticking with the Swatch group, I'm fascinated to see, can Swatch finally figure out how to sell a truly high-end watch? They do really well with Longines, they do really well with Omega. Moon Swatch seemed to do something good for Swatch itself. PRX seems to be doing something good for Tissot. But once you get to their high-end brands, Blancpain, Jacques Dro, Breguet, Harry Winston, Swatch seem to have no idea how to sell a watch. They make great watches, but they have no idea how to sell them. Will this year be the year that Swatch figures out how to sell its high-end stuff, or will this be another year of drift? Next question is about Tudor. 2021 was a year of stasis for Tudor. They didn't grow in the market. They had a lot of big splashy releases, but if you look at, again, the Morgan Stanley result, for the first time in virtually a decade since they were reintroduced, they didn't climb the rankings. They kind of hovered a little bit. Big question. Have they run their race? Has Tudor found everyone who's going to buy a Tudor and has sold them a watch, and so their growth has stopped? Or was this a temporary pause? That were the watches released in late 2022, things like the Pelagos 39, are they going to propel Tudor forward? Really looking forward to finding out what's going on with that brand in the real world. Okay, next up, I am an unashamed Breitling fanboy. I own quite a few. I watch the company very carefully. I've been cheering on their rise. But my big question is, can they maintain that momentum, especially in a world where they are still probably pushing the friendship of how much can you charge for an ETA or Solita based three-hander? As a watchmaker, Breitling have nothing to apologize for. They have a totally in-house designed and built split seconds chronograph. That kind of stamps you as someone capable of doing pretty much anything. They know how to make a movement. They just haven't figured out how to do it in a way that makes them money. And when it comes to a three-hander, so they've continued to provide us third parties. Will this be the year that they make that switch? Or if they don't, can they continue the momentum that they've had? Or are they going to stall on their continued march to the $1 billion club? Really quick one here. Fascinated to see what happens with Girard-Perregaux and Ulysse Nardin post Kering. They are newly independent. They've been unleashed. They can do whatever they want. You would think now, after a year and a bit, that they're now in a position to start doing whatever they want. Well, what is that going to look like? Can Girard-Perregaux find something other than the Laureato to sell us? Can Ulysse Nardin find something to sell us? Some core watch like the Laureato for them that becomes their flagship? Because at the moment, I don't think they have one. Fascinated to see what happens with them in 2023. Okay, so my eighth question of 2023 is what's going to happen with Quartz? Personally, I'm finding I'm quite interested in getting some more Quartz watches and expanding my collection, particularly looking at the specific and unique things that Quartz watches can do or can allow. And so that's what I want to do personally. I'm hearing a lot of people also wanting to do the same thing. And I'm also hearing rumblings, I'm hearing rumors that some people in the industry are thinking about leaning more into Quartz watches, high-end Quartz watches, more interesting Quartz watches. And I'm really curious to see if anything comes of that in 2023. Okay, so my ninth question is really seeking confirmation of something I've kind of believed for a few years. And that is that there are two distinct watch markets. There is an investment watch market and an enthusiast watch market, and that they do not really overlap. It's common wisdom that as the pressure has come out of the Rolex and AP and Patek market, and those prices have stabilized and begun to fall back a little bit, pretty much everyone is saying that that is going to become something of a contagion. It's going to head across all the other brands and everything's going to start loosening up. Everyone's going to start having some more production issues and selling issues, and that we're going to see more discounts coming. I'm not convinced that's true. I knew a lot of people during the bubble years who would only buy Rolex, would only buy the hype investment watches, that they had no impact on any watch that wasn't an investment grade watch. And I believe that as they leave, they're going to have no impact on, or at least minimal impact on, enthusiast watches. I think the people that were buying enthusiast brands and were really into the watches that weren't hyped are going to keep wanting to buy what they were buying. And I actually don't think that the massive fall off in, for example, Rolex prices is going to be reflected in Omega, Breitling, Cartier, those sorts of things. 2023 will be the year that we find out whether that's true or not. Finally, the big question of 2023. What's going to happen with the economy? Is there going to be some luxury Armageddon? Is there going to be a massive reduction in demand? Will there be discounts, and will brands go bust and all of that sort of thing? Personally, I don't think so. I think that there are people over-egging the idea of how bad things are going to get. I think that there's a lot of people paying attention to their little patch, but not necessarily watching what's happening in the bigger world, which doesn't seem to be quite so bad. And I think there's a lot of people who perhaps misunderstand the motivations of watch brands. I think there's a lot of people who think that watch brands and watch brand owners are out to screw every cent they can out of them and run watch brands like tech stocks. I think the evidence is, history has shown that that is not the case. Watch brands will hang on and their owners will keep running them until basically the bailiffs are at the door. They don't just dump stuff, or they rarely dump stuff just because it's not making a great deal of money. They'll let these vanity projects run at a loss. So I'm curious to see what happens in 2023. How bad does the economy get? And is this going to be a time when the duct tape tears, the rubber bands break, and that we do lose some brands? Or will, as has happened over the last couple of cycles, owners just suck it up and they lose money for a year or two, and then we get back to just holding firm? Anyway, so that's it. They're my questions for 2023. Don't have any answers at the moment. I've got some ideas about how I think things might play out, but really I am just curious. Love to know, what do you think about the questions that I've got? What do you think is going to happen? And what are the things you're looking out to see? What are the questions you've got in your head about what the market, the industry, brands are going to do? Leave them in comments below. I've been Pete McConville. This has been my channel where I, as I've constantly said, overthink, overanalyze, overtalk about watches. If that sounds of interest to you, like, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff, and we'll see each other again later. Bye.